What propelled you to say, I'm quitting this, I'm going to start a company selling books over the internet, and I'm going to do it from Seattle? Where did that idea come from?
I came across the fact, so this is 1994, nobody has heard of the internet, very, very few people. And I came across the fact that the web, World Wide Web, was growing at something like 2,300% a year. This is in 1994, and anything growing that fast is, even if its baseline usage today is tiny, it's growing so fast, it's gonna be big. And so I looked at that and I was like, there's gotta be, I should come up with a business idea and that get, on the internet, and then let the internet grow around this, and we can keep working on it. And so I made a list of products that I might sell online, and I started force ranking them. And I picked books because books is super unusual in one respect, which is that there are more book items in the book category than there are items in any other category. There are 3 million different books active and in print around the world at any given time. So the founding idea of Amazon was to build universal selection of books. The biggest bookstores only had 150,000 titles. And so that's what I did. And I hired a small team, and we built the software. I moved to Seattle. Everything I've ever done has started small. Amazon started with a couple of people, and Blue Origin started with 5 people, and the budget at Blue Origin was very, very small. Now the budget at Blue Origin approaches $1 billion a year. The next year it'll be more than $1 billion. And Amazon, it literally was 10 people. Today it's 500,000 people, but it's hard to remember for you guys, but for me it's like yesterday. I was driving the packages to the post office myself, and hoping one day we could afford a forklift. And so for me, I've seen small things get big, and it's part of this day one mentality. I like treating things as if they're small. Amazon, even though it is a large company, I wanted to have the heart and spirit of a small one.
And when you told your parents you were going to quit D.E. Shaw, where you're successful, making presumably a fair amount of money,
yeah.
And you told your wife, Mackenzie, that you're
Yeah.
going to move across the country, what did they all say?
They were immediately and reflexively supportive right after they asked the question, what's the internet?
Right.
And so, no, but this is right. With your loved ones, you bet on them. You're not betting on the idea. You are betting on the person. And that was and it's one of those decisions I made with my heart and not my head. And I basically said, I don't want to regret. When I'm 80, now 90, I want to have minimized the number of regrets that I have in my life. And most of our regrets are acts of omission. They're things we didn't try. It's the path untraveled. Those are the things that haunt us.
And you were telling me that you had to go deliver the books to the post office yourself.
I was doing that for years.
And I
was packing boxes on my hands and knees. In the first month, I was packing boxes on my hands and knees on the hard cement floors. And with somebody else standing next to me, kneeling next to me, we're packing. And I said, you know what we need? Knee pads. This is killing my knees. And this guy packing alongside me said, we need packing tables. And I was like, oh, that's the most brilliant idea I've ever heard. And the next day I went and bought packing tables, and it like doubled our productivity. After books, we started selling music, and then we started selling videos. And then I got smart, and I emailed 1,000 randomly selected customers and asked them, besides the things we sell today, what would you like to see us sell? And that answer came back incredibly long-tailed. The way they answered the question was with whatever they were looking for at that moment. So like I remember one of the answers was, I wish you sold windshield wiper blades because I really need windshield wiper blades. And I thought to myself, we can sell anything this way. You have to use heart and intuition. There has to be risk-taking. You have to have instinct. All the good decisions have to be made that way. You do it with a group. You do it with great humility. Because, by the way, getting it wrong isn't that bad. That's the other thing. When we make mistakes, and we've made doozies like the Fire Phone and many other things that just didn't work out, we don't have enough time. for me to list all of our failed experiments, but the big winners pay for thousands of failed experiments.
So let's talk about that with another, I guess this is a corollary. Now that you have about 600,000 employees, I calculated you're adding about 250 people a day. You've mentioned that you're trying to fend off day two.
Yeah.
And you've said that day two is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciatingly painful decline, followed by death. That
Yeah.
is why it is always day one.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that work?
Well, so day one, this is a phrase that we use at Amazon all the time. I've been using it. It's in my first annual shareholder letter from 20 years ago. And we say it's always day one. And it needs to be day one for the reason that you just mentioned. And how do you, so the real question for me is, how do you go about maintaining a day one culture? You know, it's great to have the scale of Amazon. We have financial resources. We have lots of brilliant people. We can accomplish great things. We have global scopes. We have operations all over the world. But the downside of that is that you can lose your nimbleness. You can lose your entrepreneurial spirit. You can lose that kind of heart that small companies often have. And so if you could have the best of both worlds, if you can have that entrepreneurial spirit and heart, while at the same time having all the advantages that come with scale and scope, think of the things that you could do. And so the question is, how do you achieve that? The scale is good because it makes you robust. You know, a big boxer can take a punch to the head. The question is, you also want to dodge those punches. So you'd like to be nimble. You want to be big and nimble. And I find that there are a lot of things that are protective of the day one mentality. I already spent some time on one of them, which is customer obsession. I think that's the most important thing. If you can, and it gets harder as you get bigger. When you're a little tiny company, say you're a 10-person startup company, every single person in the company is focused on the customer. When you get to be a bigger company, you've got you've got middle managers, and you've got all these layers, and those people aren't on the front lines. They're not interacting with customers every day. They're insulated from customers, and they start to manage not the customer happiness directly, but they start to manage through proxies like metrics and processes, and some of those things can become bureaucratic. So it's very challenging. But one of the things that happens is the decision-making velocity slows down. And I think one of the reasons that happens is that people, all say junior executives inside the big company, start to model all decisions as if they are heavyweight, irreversible, highly consequential decisions. And so even two-way doors, you make a decision, it's the wrong decision, you can just back through the door and try again. Even those reversible decisions start to be made with heavyweight processes. And so you can teach people that these pitfalls and traps, and then teach them to avoid those traps. And that's what we're trying to do at Amazon, so that we can maintain our inventiveness and our heart and our kind of small company spirit, even as we have the scale and scope of a larger company. I think this one is a very important question. What does day two look like?